If you're a retail agent listening and managing a portfolio of property business, wanting it, of course, to be profitable property business, what tips do you have for a retailer to successfully pursue wildfire risks?
I think the term wildfire is a little bit of a misnomer. Really, I like to think of this, and I especially think about Southern California when I use this term, a convective firestorm, which is really what it is. I mean, it is completely fueled by the winds that generated Santa Ana winds in the case of Southern California, but winds exist everywhere. And Louis also is completely correct that we're talking about California, but there are so many states that are affected by this peril. The other thing about wildfire is it is very unique, a very unique peril from the standpoint that either you have a loss, so either you have no loss or you have 100% of a loss. There is very seldom, I would say probably less than 5% of the time, you have a partial loss from a wildfire. It's either there after the fire comes through, or the asset's not there. Really, when you're talking to retailers, they have to go and get a lot of information surrounding what Louis has been talking about, the mitigation, both on a local level, a governmental level, as well as the actual asset and the property itself. Whether that's a homeowners association, where they have a concerted plan that they're going to adopt, and they're going to be working with people like Fortress Fire to come up with that plan and to have ongoing surveys done. Or it's California Firewise and their team and where the new firebreaks are. One of the huge benefits in Northern California is the installation of all these thermal cameras throughout Napa and Sonoma, which went into effect on June the 1st of last year. And supposedly about 77 fires were tracked by those thermal cameras, of which 22 were extinguished before the first 911 call came in.
Wow.
I mean, when we talk about efforts that are being made, again, I go back to the modeling. You know, if an agent is going to just rely upon the underwriter going to his regular sources of information, which is going to be a model of some description, it's not really doing a service to the client. So you've got to invest the time and effort in peeling back the onion on what specifically has been done with respect to wildfire or convective firestorm in that particular area.
What was interesting with what Ben mentioned, just to piggyback off of, is just the uniqueness of the peril of these fires. And I think for our industry to understand, we have, over time, we've gotten used to looking at catastrophe perils in a certain light, and that being windstorm and earthquake and flood. And the difference between those two types of perils, or I'd say wildfire and those, is that wildfire, with all these mitigations and technologies, the things that Ben was talking about, you can manage the severity, the size of that fire by way of implementing best practices, defensible space, structure hardening. Whereas you can't do that with a named windstorm or an earthquake. You can do your best to prepare, but oftentimes keep your fingers crossed that you don't lose your property. Whereas with wildfire, through collective efforts and individual efforts, you can protect yourself from a loss. And so that's one of the things that agents need to understand to articulate to their clients, but also underwriters need to understand as well, so that they're implementing that into their underwriting and acknowledging those practices, because they have a significant impact on the outcome in terms of the survivability of a property.